Welcome to Gentle Restorative Yoga Blend. I'm not playing any music today. That's so you can play your own music, whatever you like, something relaxing perhaps, or perhaps no music at all. But I just thought it might be a nice change of pace to give you the option to have some music at home and not hear the kind of, tinny music you get through the speakers here sometimes. Today is September 11th as I record this. And it's kind of fortuitous that September 11th is falling on our Gentle Restorative Yoga Blend Day because I feel like our Gentle Restorative Yoga Blend is really a nice chance to relax, to decompress, and hopefully to let go of stress and maybe even a little bit of trauma. Of course, September 11th is a day to remember trauma, but also we're living through a different kind of trauma right now. And so I thought we'd take a little bit of time today to sort of process that and look at some techniques that yoga offers to help us through that. So today I'd like to start in Shavasana. Let's lie on our backs. Let's make any adjustments we need to make to the length of our spine, the length of our neck, and just settle in. Just let the body sink into the floor. And we'll do our breath work here. So I'm going to offer you two quick breath techniques whenever you feel stressed or overwhelmed. One that's very easy, it's almost not even a breath technique. It's just to count your exhales as you breathe. So maybe you're sitting in the car in traffic and you're stressed because the person in front of you didn't move when the light changed or someone cut you off. Just try to count your exhales. And again, this technique is just to bring your awareness out of the mind stuff. Remember, yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuation of the mind stuff. Getting away from being spun up and into a calmer, quieter place. So just counting your exhalations can draw that focus away from whatever's annoying you, whatever's stressing you, back to a calm, centered place. The second technique, and the one that I want to offer today for our practice, is the 2-to-1 breath that we've practiced before. This is where we begin by being aware of the length of the inhales and the exhales. Just breathing normally at first and observing the breath. And as we are aware of the length of the breath, we can begin to extend those exhales, making them ever longer, until your exhale is about twice as long as your inhale. This technique serves both the mental purpose of calming the mind as you bring focus to your breath and away from the world around you. It also serves a physiological purpose. Remember, our body has a sympathetic and a parasympathetic nervous system, and the sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight. That can get very keyed up when we're stressed. Our parasympathetic nervous system is our rest and digest. Inhaling is a sympathetic action. Exhaling is a parasympathetic action. Exhaling lowers your blood pressure, slows your heart rate, and just brings you to a calmer place. So using this 2-to-1 breathing, especially in Shavasana here, really helps calm things down. Now we're not going to drift off into our Shavasana for the next hour. We're just going to use it today to start us off and bring us to this calm, centered place. And one of the most important things to help you deal with any kind of stress or trauma is to feel safe. Now, safety is in part a physical thing, that you're in a space where you don't feel threatened physically, but it's also a psychological state. So calming and soothing ourselves, bringing us to a place where we do feel safe and secure. One of the things I have often found helpful when I am stressed or worried is to come back to the knowledge that whatever happens, I will find a way to deal with it. Because really, we have no other choice. Because throughout history, everyone has always, in some sense, found a way to deal with everything. Because time doesn't stop. The world moves on, and whatever we're dealing with will move on as well at some point. I think on some level, I sometimes feel like I'm going to get stuck in a situation and it's never going to go away. But everything goes away, everything flows on down the river. And we have in ourselves the ability to find a way to deal and to cope with everything. And that knowledge alone can help you reduce your stress burden. Okay, from Shavasana, let's just go ahead into a full body stretch. So we'll sweep our arms overhead and reach out through our fingertips and down through our toes, bringing lots of length to the body. And I like to inhale and try to lift the ribs to get more stretch in my abdominals. And exhale to relax everything down into the floor. Inhale, lengthen, extend, stretch it out, and relax. One more time, we'll lengthen and we'll relax. We can bring our arms back down to our sides now. Let's slide our feet in and bend our knees, planting our feet so that our heels are fairly close to the back side. And we'll peel the sacrum up off the floor, articulating the bridge, and we'll roll back down. Using our breath, we'll inhale to lift, and we'll exhale to roll back down. You can either just lift until your hips are straight, or take it to a back bend if you like. And come back down. One more time. It's like we're unzipping a zipper as our spine peels up off the floor. And then zipping it back up as our spine rolls back down to the floor. Now crossing the right ankle over the left knee. Keep that right hip open, that right knee open. We're coming to our supine pigeon. We'll lift the left foot. Let's grab the left thigh with both hands and pull the left leg in. We can press the right elbow against the right inner thigh to get more hip opening. We're going to do a couple of things for hips today because we do tend to carry our stress and our trauma in our hips for some reason. So we'll be releasing our hips 2 or 3 different ways today. Come back to the breath. Just sink and relax. We have this time for ourselves. We've carved this time out of our day just to be quiet and calm. Everything that's out there outside of this practice will still be there later. But the more you can let go of that now, the better you'll deal with it later. Bringing the left foot back down to the floor, we can slide the right knee over on top of the left knee. Bringing arms out to the side, we can drop our legs to the left just to get a nice, gentle supine twist. Inhale and exhale. I like this cross leg variation because I feel like I can get a gentler twist because I have a little support and I can release into it better. But I like both versions of the supine twist. Just relax and sink. Think about melting. And then we'll gently lift back up to center. Uncross, we'll plant the right foot. Now bringing the left ankle over the right knee. Again, keeping the left knee open like a number 4. We're grabbing the right thigh with both hands and drawing in with an option here to press the left elbow against the left inner thigh and hug. And feel that opening now in the left hip. Couple of breaths here. And you can relax that right foot down to the floor, sliding the left knee over the right knee, bracing the arms, bracing the shoulder blades against the floor, just dropping the legs to the right this time for spinal twist, sinking and breathing and melting into it. Some of you know 3 of my favorite things in yoga are the twists, the hamstring stretches, and what's my third favorite thing? I've forgotten for a moment. That's okay. I'm focusing on the twist right now because it's very good for peristalsis, for the flowing of food through your digestive system. Let's come back to center. Let's uncross. Now, let's bring our feet off the floor and bring our arms between our knees, grabbing the outsides of our feet for dead bug. Dead bug, very much like happy baby, except I'm grabbing the outside of the foot instead of the inside. And I'm not rocking. I'm just focusing on soles of the feet facing the ceiling, ankles stacked over knees, pulling knees down toward the floor, and really trying to get my whole spine down onto the floor. And this is the challenging part sometimes, trying to get your whole spine down to the floor. And you may not get there. It's not easy. Don't expect to get there. Just do what you can do today for our dead bug. Try to keep the feet facing up, the knees drawing down, the ankles over the knees. And now we'll come into a different variation of dead bug, coming to tabletop legs and arms straight up. Let's take a moment to activate Uddiyana Bandha, that core lock here. Think about drawing your navel in and imagine drawing the navel up toward the rib cage. So you're kind of hollowing the abs a little bit here. Option to float your head off the floor. We'll inhale. As we exhale, we'll really tighten those abs and extend out. And we'll inhale back up. The head can float or not. We'll just flow this a few times. Lower and lift. One more time. Let's hug the knees in, rock the back out, relax the head and neck down. We'll bring the feet to the floor, let the knees fall out to the side, and bring the soles of the feet together for Supta Baddha Konasana. It's our reclined bound angle pose, our reclined butterfly. And we're not going to stay here for a long time. We're not doing this restorative or yin. We're just doing it in a normal flow here. So just relax the legs. Let the weight of your legs open your hips a little bit more. You can always place your hands on your inner thighs if you want, but I wouldn't push hard. I would just add a light pressure just to release and relax. Now, an option here would be to try to squeeze your thighs back up and meet that pressure with the pressure of your arms and then release down again. So it's an equal pressure, hands to thighs if you choose, and then relax it down again. You might just find that that tensing and releasing gives you a little more openness, something you can play with if you like to. Couple of breaths, opening hips, and then sliding our legs out, rolling over now onto our bellies. We'll take a baby cobra pose here. So hands under the shoulders. Before we do this, remember, we don't really want to hyperextend the spine. So we're just going to lift the chest bringing the gaze a little bit forward of the mat. Now I'm not pressing into my hands. I'm using the strength of my back here. But I'm not trying to hyperextend as high as I can, just getting a little lift just to engage the muscles of the back. You can relax back down. You can turn your head one direction and rest one cheek on the floor for a moment. We'll repeat this, lifting up for baby cobra, breathing. Again, not pressing into the hands, just using the back muscles, just enough, lifting enough to engage those muscles. And then we'll rest back down, turning the head the other direction. Take a breath. Then we'll press up, come up into our knees, and bring the big toes together. Open the knees wide, sinking the hips back, coming into a child's pose. First child's pose today. Let's bring awareness to the lower back and the hips. As the hips sink toward the heels, try to experience that sensation of lengthening and tractioning in your lower back, decompressing your spine. Imagine your spine. It is a stack of vertebrae. And in between those vertebrae are little gelatinous discs. And those little gelatinous discs get compressed by gravity in the course of the day. So we can think about this pose as being a chance to kind of open up the spine and decompress those discs. Another good thing you can do for yourself, for your discs, is to stay hydrated. So drink plenty of water as you need to, keeping those discs hydrated. Now walking our hands out to the width of the mat, or if you're not using a mat, just a little wider than your shoulders and hips. We're going to float the right hand over on top of the left hand. We're going to feel an expansion in the right side body. And we might find that that right hip pops up a little bit higher than it was before. So we'll use our breath. We'll inhale to expand the right side ribs, and we'll exhale, sinking that right hip a little bit lower. Let's just use that same breath over and over. Each inhale tries to expand the ribs a little bit on the right side body. Each exhale tries to sink that hip a little lower. Let's go 2 or 3 rounds of breath here. And then we can float that right hand back over to the right side. We'll come back with the torso centered, hips sinking, floating the forehead down to the mat if we can. And then we can float the left hand over on top of the right hand. So once again, we might find that left hip popping up a little bit. So we'll use the inhale to expand the left side ribs. We'll use the exhale to sink that left hip down. And so we just repeat that with each breath, expanding and sinking. Sometimes I'll say that we are expanding our vital capacity. We are expanding, increasing the ability of our lungs to inhale, increasing the volume of air that our lungs can inhale by opening up our lungs and ribs. Let's float that left hand back to the left side of the mat, come back center with the torso, and sink and breathe. Coming to stillness, coming to calm. And now we can begin sliding our hands in a little closer to our knees, pressing ourselves up slowly. Remember, whenever you've been down on the floor for a while, your heart is not pumping the blood as strongly because it doesn't need to. It's not fighting gravity to get the blood to your brain. When we come back up, your heart needs a moment to get the blood pumping harder to come back up to your brain again. So always take your time coming up off the floor. Take a moment, take a breath, let the blood return to your brain so you don't get dizzy. Let's come up onto our hands and knees here. with our hips over our knees and our shoulders over our wrists. And you can always make fists here if you want to keep your wrists aligned. Sliding the shoulder blades back, lengthening the neck, we're creating space between the ears and shoulders. Once again, drawing the abdominals in and up for Uddiyana Bandha, activating the core. Keeping the spine long and the neck in line with the spine, our gaze is down, and we'll inhale and lift the chest and tailbone. So the gaze comes up as the neck remains in line with the spine. We exhale, we'll scoop, looking in. Inhale, lift, looking forward. Exhale, scoop, looking in. Cat-cow. Just follow your own breath for a couple of rounds, letting the inhales cue you to lift and look forward, letting the exhales remind you to scoop and look in. Coming back to stillness, coming back to neutral. We can step the right foot forward. We can slide the left leg back. Bringing hands to the right thigh, we can rise up, coming into Anjaneyasana. This is our hip opener. Again with the hips, now we're stretching out the back leg, the hip of the back leg, which is going to be the left leg. Lift the chest, sink forward and down. Breathe into it. Use that sinking breath. Inhale and exhale deeper. You can take an option to roll your shoulders back and lift up here, if you like. To extend your pose, entirely optional. Imagine drawing the breath into your hip as you open and sink forward. Now we'll press back, flexing our front foot, coming into Hanumanasana, long spine, hinging forward. If you want to use blocks here, or cushions or something to keep yourself a little higher off the floor, you can. Inhale, lengthening your spine. Exhale, folding your abdomen onto your thigh. Notice that I'm not supporting myself on this leg. I don't want to lock out my knee, so I'm letting that leg stay just a tiny bit soft even. A little micro bend is fine in the knee. It's actually desirable. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold deeper. Feeling hamstring stretch. Don't go so far or so fast that it's painful. It can be a little uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be painful. If it is painful, back off. Sometimes we get more benefit and more range if we back off and come back in more slowly with permission from the body. Now we're sinking forward again, walking the hands back up. The thigh rising up for Anjaneyasana once more. Again, the option exists to extend up into your pose. Now, if you are wanting to put a blanket under your back knee for comfort, go right ahead. It's a restorative day. Blankets are always welcome. You can do whatever you want with them. Whatever makes you feel comfortable and safe and secure. And we'll press back once more into Hanumanasana, the long spine. Breathing and sinking. Now sliding forward. If you have blocks or a cushion you want to use for this, go ahead and grab it. I'm going to come into a lizard pose. Just going to start first variation, bringing the hands down inside the front foot. And you're good to stay right here if you like. If you have blocks, or if you don't need blocks, that's fine too. If you want to lower yourself down a little further, you can, perhaps to your forearms. You can also let this knee tip out to the side and roll onto the edge of your foot if you like. So again, we're opening our hip here, sinking into it. A couple of breaths. Use that sinking breath again to find more openness. And if we have dropped to our forearms, let's come back up onto our hands. If we've tipped our leg, we'll bring it back up. And we'll rise back up. And we'll step the right foot back. And we'll step the left foot forward. And if we need to, we'll slide the right leg a little further back. Remember, we're opening up this back leg, hip, and quad now. We can bring hands to the thigh in front, the left thigh, or we can roll the shoulders and extend up, sinking forward, opening the hip, breathing into it with sinking breath. Just relax. Try to bring your awareness to that sensation here so that you, first of all, are focused and in your body. But second of all, so you're not overdoing it, but you're doing enough to feel some stretch there. Now we'll press back, flexing the front foot, folding forward. And again, if you have blocks or cushions, you're always welcome to use those to support yourself if that's what you like to make this pose more accessible. Breathe and sink. And remember, it's your practice, so you find what works best for you. Because if something's not working for you, odds are you're not going to do it. And that's really true in fitness in general, probably in life in general. You got to find what works. Everybody's different. Sliding forward, rising up. Anjaneyasana, option to extend it if you like. Sinking and breathing, opening the hip. And then we'll press back once more. Hanuman Asana, folding forward. Hanuman, as I've told you before, is the monkey god. Not the god of the monkeys, the monkey god. But when they made him a god, they made a little condition that he would forget that he was a god. So his powers sort of manifest at need. Let's slide forward. And I like to think that this is a metaphor, because I like to think that we all have something divine in us and we just forget it until it manifests. Let's come down with our hands inside the foot, lengthening the spine, pressing down for our lizard pose. This is one option. You can also lower down to your forearms. You could put blocks or cushions, and lower down if you like. And again, you have the option to tip the knee out to the side and roll to the edge of your foot, which I know you can't see my foot right now, but I'm on the edge of it. Opening the hip, lizard pose. Use the breath. Come into that sensation, that awareness of your body. And then we can straighten our arms again and rise back up. And we'll bring that knee up. And let's just take a moment, catch our breath. We'll move on into our restorative portion now. First restorative pose I'm planning for today is the head to knee pose. So you'll need stuff to pile up to fold forward onto. I do have rolled up towels, as I often do. I'm going to use one of these rolled up towels for head to knee. I can sit on a blanket. That is always a nice option. And then I need stuff to lean on. There's stuff. You will use as much stuff or as little stuff as you need. So starting seated, get this out of the way for a second. From seated, let's extend the right leg out. And let's bring the left foot to the right inner thigh. Let's more or less face that right foot. So rather than being kind of a sideways thing, it's kind of a head-on thing here. The towel is optional. I put it under my knee so I don't lock my leg out. Remember, we'll be here for several minutes. We don't want to be uncomfortable if we're locking our leg out for several minutes. Now, I'm going to put a pile of stuff right in front of me here so I can lean forward, keeping a nice long spine. And I'm going to turn my head to one side, and I'll just keep my head turned for the length of this pose because we'll switch sides. I'll switch which way I turn my head later. So coming into it, let's inhale and lengthen the spine, and exhale, folding forward, relaxing. You can grab your elbows if you like. You can just stack your hands if you like. Try to settle in here, and I'd encourage you to bring your awareness to your shoulder blades, because a lot of times you have to let those just kind of melt and slide down the back. So we're sinking and breathing, hinging forward, getting a little bit of stretch in the hamstrings here. Not a crazy stretch, because this is not about a strong stretch. This is about a long stretch. This is about letting the body have enough time for the joints to open and release and relax and to settle in. We can close our eyes and come back into the awareness of our breath. And just try to feel the experience of the quiet and the calm. Let this be a little gift you give to yourself today. Now pressing ourselves back up, we're just going to switch to the other side. So extending the left leg, bringing the right foot to the left inner thigh, turning to face the left foot. Option to put a towel under your knee. We can then place our stack of stuff, cushions, bolsters, pillows, blankets. And we can inhale nice and tall and exhale, folding forward, resting our head on the hands stacked or grabbing elbows, resting on the forearms, settling in. Once again, letting those shoulder blades melt and slide down your back, relaxing the leg, just feeling nice and supported, so everything just lets go as you sink and breathe. Rising back up. We can put our stuff aside for a moment. Let's just extend both legs and shake them out a little bit. Our next pose is a heart opening pose, and I'll be doing supported hero pose. Now, this might be a problematic pose for some people, depending on how your knees feel and so forth. So we have lots of other options here. What we'll all do in common is make a little ramp to lie back on. So if you have blocks, you can use blocks. If you have cushions, you can use cushions. If you're backed up against your couch, that could also work just as well. So I'm going to make a little ramp with my bolster. And you might want to have this ramp a little higher than you normally would do when we're doing some of our poses, because this reclining hero pose, we are lying back with our knees bent and tucked under us, so you'll see in a moment. But there's my ramp. Now, to do the hero pose, I'm going to, just bear with me if you don't want to do this, we'll get there. I'm going to back up to my little ramp. Now I want something to sit on. So I've used my blocks already, so I'm going to roll up my blanket now. So I have something to sit on, so I'm not going to be crunching down on my knee joints the whole time. And I'm also going to put my towels under my ankles so they don't lock out during the pose. I could also put towels under my knees, but I feel like I'm sitting up high enough here that that's going to be fine. So I can lie back here, coming to my supported hero pose. Now, this might not work for you, especially this part with the knees bent, so what are some options? You could just forget all this part, and you could extend your legs. Still have a nice heart opening pose here. If you extend your legs, you could also roll up a blanket for your knees if you want to bolster your knees. We're just trying to find a nice supported heart opening pose. Another option would be to do Supta Baddha Konasana. So you could bring the soles of your feet together. You could put cushions under your thighs for support. You could also make a long skinny roll, tuck around over your ankles and under your ankles for support, and then lie back into your heart opening pose. So those are three options. They all have in common that we're reclined, opening the heart. So find whatever is going to work best for you. I'll set my ramp back up again. Remember, we'll be here for a few minutes, so that's why I'm using so many little tricks, like sitting on a blanket and tucking towels under my ankles. Also, if you have a washcloth or an eye pillow, you might want to cover your eyes just to enjoy the quiet and the calm a little bit more. Your arms can just rest out to the side with your palms up. If you would like to put your hands on cushions so they're supported as well, that's also an option, especially if your arms are just kind of dangling. So find whatever option works best for you. Open your arms. And then think about opening your heart. Think about that sort of heart-focused breathing. Imagine drawing the breath and the energy in and out through your heart. Just bring awareness to your heart. Think about the fact that your consciousness is really spread through your body. Things happen in your body without your brain getting involved. And there is consciousness in your heart. Try to bring your awareness into that heart consciousness. And maybe you'll experience a feeling of benevolence. Maybe that heart awareness makes you feel and know that you are loved. Maybe it makes you feel love for others. But again, just getting out of the mind and for now into the heart to feel love, to feel gratitude, to feel that you are in a universe that welcomes your existence. If we covered our eyes, we're uncovering them now. Using our hands for support, we can press ourselves up. If we're in supported hero's pose, we're just going to walk our hands forward, coming into a child's pose variation. If you're in a different pose, just make your way to child's pose. Just to release the back a little bit. Sink the hips. This isn't the deepest child's pose, it's just a quick little release for the back. Walk our hands back in, sit up. For our final pose today, I'm going to be offering Makarasana, crocodile pose, which is the prone version of Shavasana. If you prefer to just stay in Shavasana, or go back to Shavasana as we started, that's completely fine. You could also do Mountain Brook by bolstering under your knees, your lower back, and your neck, finding lots of support there. If you want to do Makarasana with me, I'm going to use, I just put down a blanket so that I can rest my face, my head on that, my hands stacked. Not really for bolstering, just for hygiene. And I like to do the belly press. I use a pillow for that. You could use a folded blanket. Nothing terribly thick for belly press, something fairly low. It's going to catch you just at the bottom of your belly. A little pressure there. And again, if you don't care for this pose, just roll over onto your back and do Shavasana. You can have your feet turned out, you can have your feet pointing back for this pose. I'm going to fold my arms and grab my opposite elbows, but I could stack my hands and rest here as well. Trying to keep a nice long neck. Now, whatever pose you've chosen, let's just take a breath and sigh it out. And just try to release all the tension from your body, anything that's left at this point. Hopefully there's very little tension left at this point. And just bring your awareness into all the points of contact between your body and the floor, and feel the weight of your body just sinking and melting into the floor, by extension into the earth. Try to feel that connection to the earth and the energy of the earth. Just melt. Come back into the awareness of your breath. And as always, if you have any stray thoughts wandering through your mind, let them wander and go on their way. You are just the observer today. You're there to observe those thoughts, not to live in them, not to be them, just to watch them as they pass through and know that you are still here. Inhale and exhale into your final relaxation. And wherever you are, we'll begin to deepen our breath. We can roll onto one side. And then we'll press ourselves up, coming into whatever comfortable seated position feels good to you. Taking a moment to ground into the floor, to rise up toward the sky, stacking the spine, relaxing the shoulders, bringing hands to heart center, bringing awareness to heart center, recognizing that we all have struggles and trials. We do the best that we can, and then we move on. We learn what we can learn. We forgive ourselves if we come up short, and we just try to do better, following the light in you, following that little bit of the divine in you, knowing that you are good enough, you are deserving of happiness, you have all that you need, you have love in your life, love to receive, love to share. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.